The streetcars are an aesthetic asset to the city, to like it's an icon. But my initial thoughts were just to keep that, just because I do think that even a little bit of revenue helps, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I share that sentiment myself, yeah.
So I don't think that's a decision, but it's certainly something we should continue to discuss.
Yes, so the current contract that we have expires at the end of this calendar year. So we do have a couple more meetings where we can continue having the conversation. And then we are looking, as I mentioned, to put a contract on the street for advertising, but it's not going to include wrapping the exterior of buses. So if that is a direction that THS wants to continue having, we can also discuss a procurement that's specific to streetcar wrapping of the exterior of the vehicles.
And that decision would need to be made by the end of the year?
Yes, because
So
the
after
current
November?
contract, expires December 31st.
Okay.
Do we know for sure that none of our grants require us to preserve whatever income we've been generating? I know, for example, the DOT grant that we have requires us to maintain comparable city contributions for, I don't know, from the CRAs or the special assessment. I'm not sure exactly what the specifics are, but if the DOT grant says you also have to maintain your current earning capacity via advertising, that would be another factor. So, and I have no idea whether that's true or not.
I'm not sure, but I do, to Mr. Grant's point, I do believe that you can probably make up a lot of those revenues from more aggressive advertising within the vehicle, and then seeing what we can do with our stations. I mean, I think the static stations, just being where they are a much greater opportunity to really brand those rather than the streetcar, because I could really see some development dollars coming in with that and kind of saying, hey, this is well, right now we have the Publix, but like to really stress the point, this is a public station, you can probably look at something like that and maybe upping our revenues on that side. But I'm not exactly sure. But if we're only getting 65,000 from that, I would imagine that would be kind of like the grant opportunity would just be like we have to maintain that local match, not necessarily where the source is from. But I can look into that.
Interesting. Yeah, please bring this back. I think
Okay.
it would be really nice just to see the streetcars.
Right. I agree. I think it would be really nice to see our assets
Yeah, it's a
as
great
assets.
idea.
Right.
Good, thanks, Gal.
President English, Director Williams had her hand raised on the thing.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's a long drive from Temple Terrace. Okay.
Director Williams is on. Director Williams' hand is raised on the screen.
I'm sorry.
Director Williams' hand is raised on the
Oh,
screen.
yes, please, go ahead, Director Williams.
Thank you. I just wanted to weigh in on the conversation, and I'm very familiar with the conversation, the discussion that's taking place from a hard bus standpoint, and I think it's necessary for us to reevaluate from a TPO standpoint and T-Dot streetcar standpoint, and I would welcome the opportunity to explore what is available, since we are doing those things from a hard bus transit standpoint. So I just say that 90,000 transit riders is significant, and if there's a way we can get feedback from our riders, as well as ask staff to look at some opportunities for us to see if there's an opportunity to even get more than 65,000, and then make sure that we preserve our brand. I think I'd like to make sure that opportunity is there for us, and not assume that it will be less, but maybe there's more opportunity for us out there as well. So I just wanted to weigh in and give that feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we really need to pursue this.
Yeah, and I agree with those comments too. And maybe I should restate what I meant. If it's revenue neutral, then I'd say we go for it. You
Sure.
know, like I think everybody here kind of agrees that we want the streetcars to be back to that iconic status rather than, you know, billboards for Coors
Yeah, I
Lights
mean,
or
people
whatever
really
else.
love looking at the streetcars, you know?
Yeah, and
cool.
take pictures in front of them and everything. I remember we waited for one without the wrap to take the picture last time we had an opportunity to. So, yeah, I think I agree with that personally, but I do think that most people on the board kind of agree with that too.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
So I'm just going to share, I will work with Cal, you know, to really, I would say, sharpen our pencil and see what the opportunities are. And then what we can also do, working with staff, is to at least provide an update on how much revenue we're generating from the actual stations. And there's some, like the HSBC station. I know we've talked about that for like a year because it's HSB, it's not really branded. It's right there by the arena, but it's not called the Amelie Arena stop. You know, there are opportunities, so maybe we can come back with a listing of some of the stations where there are opportunities to get more advertisements at those locations and see how we can get to at least a cost-neutral spot, and then see how we can get beyond that, utilizing the shelters in the interior of the streetcar. So we'll commit to coming back with that information.
That's great, great idea. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Okay, now that we have a quorum, let's move to legal and legislative reports with Mr. Smoker, and you can introduce the resolution and grant.
Did you want to do the minutes?
I beg your pardon?
Did you want to do the minutes first?
No, I don't.
No,
Let's just do
okay.
you. We'll go back to the minutes.
Very good. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave Smolker for the record. We have an action item before you, which is approval of selection of a general liability insurance carrier, and we're requesting that you authorize binding of coverage with that carrier. Over the last several months, with the assistance of Grant Mielek, we have reviewed a number of insurance options for our public liability entity coverage, and the net result of it is that Mr. Mielek has made a recommendation to us that we change carriers and that we modify the scope of coverage to, I think in his words, make it more THS-centric. And so I'll invite Mr. Mielek up to the podium to give you all an overview. You can see the comparison in the agenda item, and depending on the decision that the board makes, we could realize substantial cost savings.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman English and Board of Directors of THS. In your packet, you should be able to see basically the printout that Mr. Smoker and I have been working. I'll break this down, pretty easy for you. The past 2 months, we've been really looking, or I did a deep dive into the PREA and PIDGET policy. And I went back through my notes, and starting in 2014, when I started as your trusted agent and risk manager, I saw that the policy was roughly around $5,000. And it's gone up and up and up and up. Because at that time, I said there was just no way I could compete with anything like that. It turns out that when I did inform you about the PREA-PIDGET policy, that people are leaving that program left and right. It was a program designed in the 70s. It was efficient. But with the premiums going up so much and with them watering down coverage, it made a lot of sense to go ahead and get aggressive with the marketplace and see what we can find out. Last month, I informed you there are about 6 or 7 carriers that I've been in deep negotiations with. In total, I went through about 29 carriers. And I told you also then that the biggest hurdle was going to be the deductibles, because it appeared that all the carriers had a minimum of a $50,000 deductible. Chubb, who we're proposing, actually had a $50,000 deductible. Turns out the underwriter from Chubb is a Florida State grad, so that made communicating between us very nice, simple, and easy. But essentially, to go through this is, rule of thumb is when you have a program like PREA and PIDGET, you don't necessarily want to leave it. It's kind of like having USAA, if you have the ability to have USAA. You typically don't want to leave it. But when I started tearing this down and going digging deeper and stuff, I saw a few major issues. And some of those issues really have to do with how THS is put together via the tri-party agreement, with HART and with the city. And I took a step back and I was like, okay, why are these terms that they're offering not really, per THS and not really per HART, and it kind of just came to me that I don't think they've really reread or seen the tri-party agreement. And I'm not too sure if they understand, and this is PREA and PIDGET, that tri-party agreement exists. Because there was a lot of duplicate coverages that PREA and PIDGET was offering. To confirm that, I spoke with the risk manager at THS at HART, and he informed me, he's like, oh no, we have our own public entity liability program as the city of Tampa. And so that's when I knew that, okay, we have to pare down this policy and we need to make it very THS-centric. The main reason why is in all commercial property policies, liability policies, and P&L policies, there's a clause that simply states, if another form of insurance with a similar or exact same coverage is enforced by a different party, this policy, i.e. the Chubb policy, would not become primary. The HART policy would be, or the PIDGET policy would be primary. So that's kind of really the big issue is now you have two carriers that could potentially point fingers, and trust me, in the event of a claim, I've seen it happen too much. So to boil everything down is we are able to go ahead and negotiate incredible terms. We were able to lower the deductible to $10,000 for public entity liability and for EPLI liability. Terrorism was thrown in for free, which I wouldn't place too much weight on that. Crisis Management Fund and Public Relations Crisis Fund, very, very important coverages. If, God forbid, we were to ever have a catastrophic claim, you want PR people on site immediately, and you don't want to have to pay for them. This policy covers that. Regarding some other things, as I said, this policy is more THS-centric. I think it draws the firewalls between HART, the city of Tampa. The only positive thing about the PREA policy was the cyber liability, but I believe HART and the city carries that coverage, which is what I found out. So in total, after going through all this, this became a pleasant surprise to me. Right now, we are able to offer savings of 313% for a total premium of $44.27, and that would be versus PREA and PIDGET's policy of $13,874.
Wow.
Monumental savings. You don't hear that anymore. And just to be fair and neutral, I did give Mr. Smoker, I said, please send PREA and PIDGET the tri-party agreement. And I don't think they did anything with it or cared about it. So.
Great, thank you so much. Great, that's pretty impressive. Any questions for Mr. Mielek? I mean, it looks like we're getting at least as good, if not oh, I'm sorry, Gil, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have it and maybe this is inappropriate, do we have it in writing anywhere that somebody outside of us have looked at this, preferably from one insurance company, and said, we're covered. You've covered all potential aspects, either from the city or Hart or from your own coverage. I know something, I'm just
elaborate?
old-fashioned and something so good, there's got to be a hook.
No, not really. Actually, it's kind of basically simple. It's that
I'd hate to have an issue and say, oh, there's a hole there. We don't really, they should have covered it, but no, they didn't cover it. There's some exclusion somewhere. And this is significant savings. It's great if it's all
it's
comes through.
significant savings because it's not offering, cyber liability, your basic CGL policies, which we already have covered under the tower. But the biggest problem is the PREA and PIDGET policy. It was covering, it potentially could violate a major clause in all insurance policies, which is duplicate coverage.
Okay.
And that was the biggest thing. I spoke about this with the risk manager at Hart. I spoke about it with an attorney, spoke about it with Mr. Smoker, and even spoke about it with my mentor, who's
Okay.
the COO of Zurich.
That's good. Thank you. I'm content. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, sounds like you just saved us $10,000. Thank you very much. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, Mr. Mechanic, second from Gil. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Excellent. Thank you very much for all your help. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. English.
Nice work.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Smoker, thank you, too.
You're welcome.
Very much.
My pleasure.
Do you want to mention anything about our Tico logo?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
I'm not quite sure what's been going on.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One is we do now have lined up the folks from Hart who will be participating in that process. There's quite a number of them. And I just was informed last week by Assistant General Counsel for TICO that she's leaving and that there's now going to be a new person with TICO to coordinate with. So I'm in the process now of finding out who at TICO is going to be involved. But I think as soon as I hear back from her, we can schedule a call and we can talk about the issue.
Okay.
Do you expect a change in direction?
No, I don't. TICO seemed very amenable to working this out in a revenue-neutral fashion for Hart and for THS. They couldn't commit to anything, but I sensed a large amount of good faith on their part, and I hope that will carry forward with the new lawyer who's handling it.
Mm-hmm. Who's leaving, Kristen or the other attorney?
No, Ms. Dempsey. I can't remember her first name now, but she's leaving. Kristen's still there. So that would conclude my report.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to approval of minutes. Agenda item number 2, please.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, roll call vote, please.
President English,
Yes.
Director Hardy,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Schissler,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I think that brings us to the Vector Media sales activity update and a marketing report.
Good afternoon, Mr. English, Ms. LeGrand, members of the board. I am Kemley Green, Director of Customer Experience, and I have the highlights today of the Marketing and Communications Report for August. So during August, we did promote heavily the 1 millionth rider. I wasn't going to mention the actual presentation because we did it in September, so I will come in the next meeting with the photo and what we did. But we did go ahead and promote the 1 millionth rider pretty heavily. And we also promoted streetcar motormen that we were hiring, the new salaries. And we actually assisted the HR department this Saturday. We had a hiring event. And they had a lot of folks interested that came in and interviewed for Streetcar. So that was really exciting. These were the two main highlights we did for the marketing team. But of course, events have returned to the Emily Arena and to downtown. So we continue promoting all of those. And we continue promoting the Streetcar as a great alternative for parking. And, you know, to park either in Ybor, go downtown, or vice versa. We're very excited that Streetcar Live is coming back. So our series concert is coming back, you know, after COVID. And we have partnered with the Downtown Partnership. They have an event that's called the Fourth Fridays, where they have events and attractions around the city and around along the streetcar line. So we are partnering with them, and we're moving our streetcar concert to be on that same day, so we can be part of the event. Partner with them when it comes to advertising and promotion. So we do expect this to be a great opportunity to have some more additional advertising for the streetcar. And of course, we continue to highlight the great ridership that we have. And media coverage for August included a few articles from That's So Tampa, Patch.com, Tampa Bay Date Night Guide, and the USF articles, and Tampa Bay Times as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Green.
Thank you. Are we doing the vector one at the same time? I think he said vector as well. Do you have that one up? Thank you. And for the Vector Media sales report, there was no business for August, but this is our 9th year of the contract through, and our quarterly paid guaranteed is $57,500.
It's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that brings us to compliance reports, which are all included in your package. The City of Tampa's financial statements and the marketing services report. Are there any questions about either of those? Excuse me. Hearing none, is there any old business, further old business? Any new business? If not, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.
I'm good. How are you, Gil? I'm trying.
Just two quick ones.
Busy at work,
minutes
so,
and-
yeah.
And then, do you need a copy of this? I'm gonna send it to Dr. Dawson to see if I can get a signature,
Right.
but once I get the signature,
I
do
thought
you need
you
a copy?
were.
Yeah, send me a copy, just so that if
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay.